Hi, my name is Kim Wright, and I'm proud to be part of this growing movement of educators who are not only passionate about what we teach, but how the brain learns best. I teach digital technologies, media arts, and design technologies to students from prep to year 6 at Toowong State School. But more than that, I strive every day to be a neuroplastician, someone who uses neuroscience to guide learning and well-being in every interaction. This presentation brings together key learnings from Central Queensland University's ED 20517, the Neuroplasticians Research Project. Throughout the video, you'll hear the wisdom of leading researchers alongside my own experiences as I reflect on how this learning is shaping my professional and personal practices. As educators, we are constantly called upon to do more than teach. We're asked to nurture, inspire, and guide learning in meaningful, lasting ways. This is why I've embraced the science of learning grounded in MBE, mind, brain, and education, the intersection of neuroscience, psychology, and education. This interdisciplinary field, championed by experts like Tracy Tokuhama Espinosa, provides a framework to bridge research and practice. Tokuhama Espinosa reminds us that while these three domains once operated in isolation, their integration empowers educators to become research translators, professionals who make evidence informed decisions in the classroom. The five pillars of MBE: transdisciplinary collaboration, evidence based practice, the strength of scientific method, the need for relevance to real world classrooms, and a constant awareness of context are embedded in my own teaching journey. As a teacher and a lifelong learner, I do see myself as a neuroplastician, someone who actively sculpts brains through intentional practice, feedback, and relationships. Understanding how students learn is not just something that's nice to know. It's essential for inclusion, equity, and excellence. Throughout this course, we explored the science backed principles that underpin neuroplastic change: novelty, repetition, emotional engagement, social interaction, physical movement, and focused attention. These insights aren't just fascinating, they're practical tools for shaping effective learning experiences. In my prep digital technologies classroom, I see the power of these principles every day. For instance, our Super Safe Superhero Unit introduces cyber safety through purpose written picture books, engaging role plays, and collaborative tasks. These aren't random activities, they are deliberately crafted to support the hippocampus in encoding memory and to promote the kind of emotionally safe environment required for prefrontal cortex engagement. By activating multiple sensory pathways and revisiting key ideas in varied and playful ways, we enhance long term retention and cognitive flexibility. These strategies are particularly crucial for young learners whose brains are still developing key executive functions like attention and regulation. Eric Jensen reminds us that every interaction, every choice, every lesson plan changes the brain. This is both a great responsibility and a source of great hope. Understanding the brain's response to stress, threat, or belonging has helped to reshape how I approach behavior and regulation. We can't teach when the amygdala is hijacked. Our students need our guidance or help to prevent or diffuse these moments. By providing routines, smiles, and authentic relationships, I strive to help my students feel safe enough to learn. One of my Year 5 students recently shared that she used our breathing strategy when she felt overwhelmed at home. To me, that's precisely the work of a neuroplastician, supporting the development of self regulation networks that can last a lifetime. Module 3 reiterated that not all information displaying a brain logo is credible. Tracy Tokuhama Espinosa urges educators to challenge neuromyths such as learning styles, left right brain dominance, and the 10% brain myth because they waste time and resources. While studying for my Bachelor of Education, I was required to complete class profiling. This involved gathering information on students as well as categorizing them as visual, auditory, or kinesthetic learners, a task that I often struggled with and found of little value. Research now tells us that I was right to question, as this approach has no scientific merit. In fact, studies have shown that learners benefit most when exposed to multiple modalities. I continue this approach of offering layered learning experiences that appeal to all senses and strengths. Debunking neuromyths requires courage. As a prospective e learning coach, I gently challenge ideas in staff meetings by offering research summaries or posing reflective questions. For example, when a colleague claimed a student just doesn't learn by listening, I shared a BrainFacts article showing how learning is more complex than input style. I also model evidence based practice. In our ClipChamp video editing unit, I teach video editing through chunked steps, peer learning, movement breaks, and emotional storytelling, all of which are supported by neuroscience. When my students learn more deeply, teachers take notice. A key takeaway of my studies has been the role of physical movement and emotional safety in learning. Brain derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, released during exercise literally feeds the brain. That's why I start lessons with music, stretching, or laughter. In a particularly restless Year 4 class, I've noticed that after a 5-minute movement break, students are more focused and collaborative. Science explains why. Movement improves oxygenation, primes the prefrontal cortex, and reduces cortisol levels. These aren't gimmicks, they're neural necessities. Metaphors like Dan Siegel's hand model of the brain help students visualize what's happening when they lose control and what strategies can bring them back. I also use Norman Doidge's Snow Hill story with my students to explain why repetition matters. In my classroom, I talk about being a brain gardener. We plant ideas, water them with practice, and protect them with rest. When students hear this language often, they begin to adopt it. I had a Year 6 student recently say, "I'm cutting back my distractions so my brain can bloom." That's when you know the science has landed. This subject and those that came before it have transformed how I think, teach, and lead. I now question brain based programs more rigorously, infuse every lesson with opportunities for novelty, movement, and reflection, explain the science of neuroscience to students so they can become agents in their own learning. In 2026, I plan to expand our whole school wellbeing initiative by creating a short weekly neuroscience informed lesson for each year level. These lessons will teach students about their brains, feelings, and focus. I want our school to be a place where science meets story and every learner knows and believes that they can grow. Being a neuroplastician isn't just about quoting research, it's about turning science into care. It means recognizing that every behavior is a message, every student a story in progress. It's about helping the anxious child to feel safe and crafting learning experiences that shape not only memory but identity. Neuroscience hasn't made teaching easier, it's made it deeper. It's helped me to understand that we're not just teaching content, we're sculpting pathways, nurturing potential, and building brains. When we bring joy, safety, movement, feedback, and meaning into our classrooms, we do more than teach, we transform. My dream is for my students to leave school not just knowing more, but believing more, especially in themselves. So, to my fellow educators, I say, let's lead with brains in mind and hearts wide open. Because when we do, we don't just teach for today, we shape tomorrow. Thank you for walking this path with me. I'm Kim Wright, teacher, learner, and proud neuroplastician. For anyone interested in exploring educational neuroscience further, here are a list of useful references. Thank you for listening. Please feel free to contact me via email if you'd like to discuss more on being a neuroplastician.